Egypt, we are firmly of the opinion that any form of external intervention, particularly concerning our neighbor Iran, would pose very significant and serious risks for the stability of the entire region as a whole. Furthermore, we strongly believe that the resolution of all outstanding issues with Iran, including the complex nuclear file, through peaceful and diplomatic channels, remains the most accurate and appropriate path forward for everyone who is involved in this process.
The stage is set, but expectations are collapsing. As Iran and the United States prepare for talks this Friday, regional officials are already bracing for failure. Behind closed doors, Middle Eastern diplomats say hopes are being downgraded, sharply. What was once framed as a chance to cool tensions is now being described as little more than an exchange of ideas with no real outcomes. Some officials go further, warning that diplomacy may only be delaying the inevitable. According to the Wall Street Journal, there is growing resignation across the region that a military confrontation may be unavoidable. And the scope of these talks is already shrinking. Reuters reports that negotiations in Oman will focus solely on Iran's nuclear program. Missiles? Off the table. Regional militias? Not up for discussion. Tehran has drawn its lines, and it's refusing to cross them. But even as diplomats talk, Iran is sending a very different signal. In what the Wall Street Journal calls a last-minute curveball, Tehran has combined diplomacy with provocation. A planned multilateral meeting in Turkey was abruptly abandoned. In its place, Iran pushed for narrow bilateral talks with Washington, limited, controlled, and tightly framed. At the same time, Iranian forces flew a drone toward a U.S. aircraft carrier. Gunboats confronted a U.S.-flagged oil tanker. The message was unmistakable. Pressure first, talks later. U.S. officials say diplomacy is still on the table, for now. The White House confirms talks remain scheduled, but behind the scenes, frustration is building. Iranian officials have threatened to walk away altogether. Some in Washington say President Trump has considered doing the same. The divide is fundamental. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has made Washington's position clear. Any meaningful deal, he says, must include Iran's ballistic missile program. Without that, there is no breakthrough, only delay.
Look, I think in order for talks to actually lead to something meaningful, they will have to include certain things. And that includes the range of their ballistic missiles. That includes their sponsorship of terrorist organizations across the region. That includes the nuclear program, and that includes the treatment of their own people. As far as the talks are concerned, I think the Iranians had agreed to a certain format. For whatever reason, it's changed in their system or what have you. We'll see if we can get back to the right place. But the United States is prepared to meet with them. I think it was scheduled for Friday. Steve is ready to go. He'll be prepared for that. If the Iranians want to meet, we're ready. They've expressed an interest in meeting and talking. If they change their mind, we're fine with that too. We prefer to meet and talk. I'm not sure you can reach a deal with these guys, but we're going to try to find out. We don't see there's any harm in trying to figure out there's something that can be done. This is a president that always prefers a peaceful outcome to any conflict or any challenge.
President Trump, officials insist, has clear red lines. The talks may happen, the cameras may roll, but with expectations sinking, tensions rising, and warships still in position, the question is no longer whether diplomacy is fragile, it's whether it still has time left at all. Behind the closed doors of diplomacy, Saudi Arabia is sending a blunt warning. These talks may not be about peace at all. A senior source within the Saudi royal family told Israel's Channel 12 News that Riyadh sees the negotiations less as a breakthrough and more as a way to buy time. According to the source, Saudi Arabia is participating at the direct request of U.S. President Donald Trump, acting as a mediator while watching every move from the White House with caution. The message from Riyadh is stark. If Iran ever acquires a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia will seek a matching capability. A red line drawn clearly, even as the kingdom publicly insists it will remain neutral in any U.S.-Iran military conflict. Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan is expected to join the talks as part of a high-level diplomatic and security delegation. The stated goal? Regional stability. the unspoken fear, a war no one can control. The Saudi source predicts that if the United States strikes Iran, Tehran would likely limit retaliation to American military bases in the Gulf, avoiding wider civilian targets. Any damage, the source says, would be contained, but not without consequences.
On Iran, are the negotiations still happening this week?
Yeah.
Where will they be? And what do you need to hear from
They're
Iran?
all over, but they are negotiating. They'd like to do something, and we'll see if something is going to be done. They had a chance to do something a while ago, and it didn't work out, and we did Midnight Hammer. I don't think they want that happening again, but they would like to negotiate. We are negotiating with them right now, yes.
Mr. President,
Where will the meeting be? It seems like
I
it's
can't tell
changing.
you that.
Mr. President, what
There
exactly-
really is more than one meeting.
Behind the scenes, Saudi officials are watching President Trump closely. They describe him as hesitant, torn between pressure and restraint. Trump, the source claims, wants a new deal, not a war, fully aware of the economic shock such a conflict would unleash, and Iran knows it. Tehran, according to the source, is playing the long game, patient, methodical, confident it can sway Trump through intermediaries. They convince him, the source says, then he makes a decision and changes his mind again. Saudi Arabia's warning to Washington is sharp and rooted in history. If regime change is the goal, don't repeat Iraq. Don't unleash chaos worse than Saddam. And don't assume the Iranian people would accept the return of the Shah's son. If overthrow is impossible, the message continues, then at the very least, stop Iran from crossing the nuclear threshold. Stop the missiles. That, Riyadh says, is the minimum responsibility. All this unfolds as Iran and the United States prepare for another round of talks, set for Friday in Oman, under the same indirect format used before. Iranian media reports Abbas Araghchi will lead Tehran's delegation. Steve Witkoff is confirmed as Washington's chief negotiator, with reports suggesting Jared Kushner may also play a role. The focus remains Iran's nuclear program, with Tehran demanding sanctions relief. But Iran's red lines are firm. Iranian lawmakers insist missile capabilities and regional influence are off the table. Non-negotiable, untouchable. This will be the sixth round of nuclear negotiations during Trump's second term, following earlier talks in Muscat and Rome. Diplomacy is moving, pressure is building, and in Riyadh, the belief is clear. These talks may not decide peace, but they may decide how close the region comes to war.